Hello everyone and welcome to this week's After Effects Quick Tip scripting tutorial. In this one, we're going to be looking at how to modify expressions without completely changing them. This is if you have an expression that's already inside of After Effects and you don't want to change the whole thing every time. You just want to adjust a couple values. And we're going to be taking a look at expressions of two different complexities. One of them is just a wiggle expression controlling the position of this alien twerking, and the other is the scale expression, which is linked to an audio file that pumps the scale with the beat. So you can see right now we have a wiggle expression on the position that goes 425, and if I go ahead and run our script, we can change it to say like 10 and 40, and if I run it, it's going to immediately update the expression to what I set it up to be. So to get started, I'm going to open up a new JavaScript file and just zoom in a bit here. And we're going to be using, again, this twerking alien, which has an expression applied on the position and scale properties. So to start, I'm going to make a variable for both the project and the composition. And at that, I'm going to need one for this GIF as well. So I'll say project is equal to app.project, and then I'll have a var for comp, and I'll set this equal to project.activeItem. So we're going to assume there's a project and a composition open. And then for our layer, we're going to say comp.layer, and the layer number is layer number 2 in our case. So just to make sure we're getting the right value, we'll alert layer.name, and we get alientwerking.gif. We're in the right boat. And then I'm going to create one variable called threshold. And this is just going to be a variable we store so we can easily adjust it and then change the expression automatically. For now, I'm just going to set this equal to like 15, but this is going to be like the audio threshold for how many keyframe values it has. And then we're going to create a variable for our expression text, and this is going to simply be equal to our layer and the property position and the expression. This will just give us the text. So if I say alert expression, we're going to get wiggle 1040. So now with this text, we can start to manipulate it to however we need to. The easiest way we can do that is by using the slice method, which will slice a string of text between two different points that we give it. So underneath here, we're going to grab our layer, the property that we want to adjust the expression of, and we're going to grab the expression and set it equal to something. Well, since we did just get the expression text and put it in a variable, we'll start with that. And since the text is just going to give us wiggle, how can we basically read this and manipulate it so that we just change the values over here? We basically don't want to have to type in wiggle every time or have it inject a bunch of extra text. Because think about it, if you had, say, a paragraph of expressions before this wiggle expression, and all you want to change is wiggle, then you would have to basically have the script inject all that code over and over and over again, which is incredibly time consuming. So this is just going to get straight to the point and change the numerical values. So I'm going to grab my expression and say .slice. Now for slice, we basically need an A and a B point. The A is basically the beginning of the slice and the B is the end. We basically want to find where to cut it off and then add some stuff onto the end. I basically want to say, I just want the wiggle text, and then I'm going to add this afterwards. So I'm going to say plus the string in single quotes, this, and this is going to be what we add. So I want this first part to say wiggle, and then I want to add this after the wiggle. Well, in order to take our wiggle expression as a whole here and cut it out, we need to get our A and our B. So I'm going to take the start at 0, which will start right before wiggle, and I want to go all the way to the parenthesis. But I can't just tell it go till the parenthesis or something like that. I need to give it the actual position. But let's say that the parenthesis is not always going to be in position 5 or 6 or something. What's a sure way that we can make sure we know where the parenthesis is? We can simply grab our expression, and I'm going to grab the index of parenthesis. And this right here is going to give us the actual index of wherever the parenthesis is. In this case, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 or 7. So it's going to go from 0 all the way over to this parenthesis right here. So if I go ahead and run this script, you can see we're getting an error. We need to put in another parenthesis after our index of. And if I run it now, you can see nothing's changing because we need to change the text inside of our expression here. We'll do something wild like 400 and 100. And you can see it's now instantly updated our expression text. A little bit extreme, so we can go back down and change the value just like that. All right, so that's how to change a simple expression. Now let's take a look at how to do something a little bit more complex. As I mentioned, I have a audio amplitude using a keyframe assistant tracking the intensity of some music. And I have this expression here, which grabs that value of the intensity, and anytime it reaches a certain threshold, it's going to basically pump the scale up. So if the song hits hard, the scale is going to go hard too. So what we want to be able to do in this is use our threshold variable we created here to easily change our basically threshold for our audio volume in this expression. So anytime we want to change it, we can change this number next to temp. If our temp value is greater than this many values, then we want the scale to go up. So instead of our expression being for our position, this time we're going to grab the scale and change this to scale as well. And very similar to before, we're going to start at 0 because we don't want to cut anything out at the beginning. If you say had a couple lines of code you wanted to take out, you could start this later at say 10 or something. But the value we want to cut it off at is going to be this greater than sign. So I'm going to search for the index of the greater than sign in this case, and that's where we stop. So once we get to the greater than sign, we're at this index right here. Let's go ahead and go 2 to the right so we can start at the number. So I'm going to take the index of that plus 2, which will take us over to where the number starts. And then we're going to add our threshold number. So I'll say plus instead of this, I'm going to say plus our threshold. And just to make sure it's a string, not a number, we'll say toString. So now if I run this, it's going to be incomplete. But if I run it, you can see it changes to our threshold to be 15, but it doesn't finish off the expression. So what I'm going to do is in the very end, just add a bit more text to finish it off. We need these parentheses and some of the other else statements. So inside of some single quotes, I'm going to add this code, add some end lines, and make sure it all lines up properly. So now we're starting at 0, going till basically the number here, adding our custom threshold, which we can now adjust to whatever we want, say 9. And then if we run the script, it's going to now adjust that value and thus accordingly adjusting the intensity of our scale effect. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this week's After Effects quick tip. That's how to do expression modification inside of After Effects. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them down below and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Thanks again for watching guys, and we'll see you in the next one.